Still Standing America is the name of Governor Larry Hogan's brand new book. He joins me now. Governor Hogan, welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show. How are you?
I'm doing great, Hugh. It's wonderful to be with you. I like the song. It's a good song selection.
It should open up every interview you do about your new book, is Still Standing. You know, Frank Luntz's rule, Governor, is if you don't say the name of a book 7 times in any interview, you failed. So if you said Still Standing, that's it.
I've been failing because I've rarely ever mentioned it. So thank you for giving me that.
You got to always, well, in Still Standing, I make this point. Governor, first quick question. Are you going to vote for President Trump in November?
Well, you know what? Like everybody else, I get to go into the voting booth and pull the lever for the person that I think is going to do the best job, and we're going to figure that out in the next 100 days.
Is there doubt in your mind?
I'm going to try to make that decision like everybody else in America. I think we've got a long way to go, and I think right now, if the election were held today, the president would be in real trouble. But he's certainly got time to turn things around, and I'm hoping that he's able to, get some of these things taken care of.
I'm going to spend a little more time on this because you surprised me. Every Republican governor out there, I expect to say I'm with the ticket. You've been a Reagan conservative since '76. You're not going to vote for Donald Trump over Joe Biden? That's not easy to answer.
Well, no. I mean, there are other choices. I didn't make that choice between Hillary and Donald Trump the first time. I did a write-in for my dad, who I had a lot of respect for, and who we can probably touch on with your Nixon background there, but. It's not a black or white decision.
Okay, well, the reason I bring it up, Governor, is when I was reading Still Standing, I did not know that you were a land use guy. I did not know until I read this that you spent a decade going from commercial broker to your own firm as what you call a full-service land company. I assume that's entitlement work, which is what I did for 35 years as a lawyer.
Yeah.
So you know developers. Right. Isn't the president like every other big developer you've ever known?
Well, he is a lot like a lot of them, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a caricature of some of those developers that I dealt with. But, that's one thing the president and I have in common is that we're both, guys from the private sector, real estate guys who never held elective office and got elected and tried to come in to, make a difference and change things. And he and I were both frustrated and fed up with politics as usual. And so there's a lot of similarities. I think we're completely opposite in tone and style and the ability to get things done working across the aisle, but there's a lot of similarities in our background.
Real estate guys,
he's made a lot more money than me, but we were in the same field.
Well, real estate guys always make big bets. They're always confident. They always see the project that no one else can see. Right? That's what they do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you know that business well.
Well, I want to go to the beginning of your book because. Ulysses S. Grant once said, it's a quote, Governor Hogan, "I read but few lives of great men because biographies do not, as a rule, tell enough about the formative period of life. What I want to know is what a man did as a boy." Well, you tell us. You worked at Ocean Playland. That was, to me, remarkable. Is that place still going?
That was the defining moment. Yeah, that was the defining moment. Unfortunately, Ocean Playland is no longer in existence. But, it was my first job walking around picking up trash at Ocean Playland for $1.15 an hour. I had a few jobs before that, delivered newspapers and cutting grass, but that was my first official, full-time job.
You are from an uber Catholic family. Your parents married at 19. They were subsequently divorced. Now, I'm only 3 months older than you, Governor, so we grew up in the same period of time. I always say 1956 is the best year to have been born. You look a lot younger,
though. You all know that.
I got white hair, so we're both 1956 kids. But I grew up in an uber Catholic neighborhood. Divorce was not very common. In fact, I don't think any of my friends got divorced. How shocking was that? You describe it, but tell our audience what a shock that was to a DeMatha kid in early 1970.
Yeah, well, so it was, so many kids do have to go through this kind of a thing, and it's not easy. It's pretty difficult as, a young teenager. I was 15 going on 16 when my parents decided to divorce, and it was not nearly as common as it is today, particularly in Catholic households. And I ended up, moving with my mother to Florida, so I left DeMatha halfway through. They finally gave me an honorary diploma last year.
Oh, they did?
So I have a fake diploma from DeMatha High School. It was a traumatic time, but it opened up a whole new set of experiences, and I loved both my parents, and like so many other kids, you find a way to get through it.
I found the quick recap of Catholic high schools in D.C. to be very illuminating, since all I know is Georgetown Prep is where Brett Kavanaugh went, and one of my son's roommates went to Gonzaga. But you went to high school with Adrian Dantley and Kenny Carr. Carr played for the Cavs, so I know a little bit about him, and Dantley was at ND. Did you know these guys? You never got on the court with these guys, did you?
Yeah, I mean, a couple times just shooting the hoops, but I never, I wasn't good enough to make. They had 3 NBA players on the same team. Kenny Carr was in my class. Adrian Dantley was a year older than me, but I was a huge basketball nut. I wanted to be a basketball coach when I grew up, so I wasn't quite good enough. You love to play, but I wasn't quite good enough to make the team, and so I signed up to be a manager to kind of study under Morgan Wooten, who's a Hall of Fame coach. And Dantley, he was probably the best to come out of school, and a big fan of his. I just saw them recently at Morgan Wooten's funeral at the Matham.
Yeah, Morgan Wooten is I lived in D.C. in the 80s, and I'm back now. He was a legend around here, and it's a sort of core character at a Catholic school. Father Lopez, where you ended up going down in Daytona Beach, also sounds like a core Catholic school. But what I liked about your recounting of your Florida years when you moved down there with your mom is that you went to work in the Florida State House for the leader. Mm-hmm. Marco Rubio might have been doing the same sort of thing, younger than you are by a lot, but the Florida State House sounds like sort of Congress on a small level, just as sort of manipulable as the United States Congress is.
Yeah, well, I was in college, and I obviously had an interest in politics, and it was we had no money, and I ended up getting a free ride at Florida State as graduating high school there, and they have a really good government and political science program there for a state institution. It's in the state capitol, and so I just interned for the minority leader of the House and got to learn a little bit. Mostly I was working a Xerox machine and running errands, but I did get a little taste of seeing what the kind of sharp-elbowed politics was all about. And Tallahassee, although it's a small town, it's pretty much the same thing that we see in Annapolis, you see in Tallahassee, and you see in Washington. I mean, some of the principles are the same.
Yeah, no, I got out of college and went to work for Richard Nixon in San Clemente, who was in San Clemente in part because of your dad. He made the very famous. Explain to people.
I'm responsible for starting your career here.
There you go. Well, you were working for him at the time, and he agonized over voting for the impeachment. He made a very famous speech telling people why he voted for the impeachment. At the same time, you ended up a Reagan conservative in 76. I was working for Ford in 76 up in Massachusetts. Why did you pick Reagan in 76 over Ford?
Well, it's interesting. So my dad, first of all, loved Nixon and thought he was a great president. And then he agonized over it because, once he saw the evidence, he really felt that he was guilty of impeachable offenses. And it was a very difficult choice to go against the sitting president of his own party. But, my father was good friends with Jerry Ford, and I got the chance to meet him and his family a number of times where they served in Congress together. Ford became vice president and then president, and my dad had somewhat of a role in that. And then my father was chairing the Ford campaign in Maryland, and I had nothing against Ford. I thought he was a wonderful man, and but I just was enthralled with Reagan and his speech, and so I was a young alternate delegate still in college. Walked onto the floor with my Reagan hat and T-shirt and Reagan sign and marched all over the convention floor. And I got a little bit of trouble. Some kids rebel and get they become juvenile delinquents or they get arrested. I rebelled by supporting Reagan instead of Ford and going against my dad, who was the chairman of the Ford campaign.
Well, this is, to me, when I was reading Still Standing, I said, I'm a party guy. I've always been a party guy because I have a deep seated belief that parties are the way in which you change countries, not individuals, but parties. You kind of went against the Republican Party in 76 by not coming out of the box. And of course, I'm voting for President Trump. You're kind of going against the party again, but you're rumored to be thinking about running for president in 2024, but not as a party guy. How does that work?
Well, I'm not really giving any serious consideration of running for anything. I mean, there's some speculation about that, but I am focused on, we're in the middle of twin crises with the pandemic and the economic crisis, and I've got a job until January of 2023 as governor, and right now I'm trying to lead the National Governors Association. But there's speculation about that. But I didn't write this book, Still Standing, because it wasn't about. I think you write a book and they say he must be running for something, but that really wasn't the case. But I've been a loyal party guy. I was involved in the party since I was 10. I was involved in teenage Republicans, college Republicans.
I know, it's amusing as hell.
Chairman of Youth for Reagan. I mean,
how did you end up working?
6 Republican National Convention.
How did you end up working for John Russo? I was in California during those years. He's like the most right-wing member of the Congress.
Yeah, he really was.
Yes.
I graduated from college looking for a job and put resumes out to I think every Republican member of Congress. Looking for my first opportunity to go get that experience, and John Russo was the only guy that offered me a job, so I was happy to have it.
Let me close by asking about COVID, Governor. I think everyone should be reading Still Standing. It's very charming, and it's a political life. I personally believe that every elected official in America is just doing the best they can with COVID. They're just actually trying to do the best. No one wants to screw up COVID. Has the coverage of COVID become politicized? Because honest to God, you can't figure out anything without spin now.
Yeah, I think both of the things you just said are true. I think that by and large, almost all of the leaders at the federal, state, and local government are trying their best to tackle this COVID crisis, which really is one of the most serious things we've faced in a long, long time. And of course, we could all of us could do better, and nobody's done everything perfectly, but we certainly are trying to make all the right decisions for people. We're trying to all work together, and it has become, there's a lot of political spin, and if ever there was a time to take the politics out of something and just focus on solving the problem, it's on this crisis. It's very important.
Okay, last off-topic question, Governor. I'm passing part of the quarantine by watching The Wire, which I didn't watch in 2003 through 2008.
You ran out of things to watch.
Yeah, is it realistic? Is this the Baltimore you know?
Well, it's not exactly a promotional video for the city of Baltimore, but it's obviously a fictional account, and it's an old story. It was taking place when Martin O'Malley was mayor of Baltimore. But I think some of it is based on some kind of true stuff that was going on with drug dealing. We still got a gang problem, still got violent crimes and murders taking place in the city, which we're working hard to try to do something about with our legislature and with the local leaders there.
Well, Still Standing covers a lot of ground, not The Wire, though. Governor Hogan, thanks for joining me. Still Standing and available in bookstores everywhere beginning tomorrow. Thank you, Governor.